Yeah, this was a tough one. All right, I don't even have a title. You can just call it that. All right. I'm sorry, dear, but you have to be present for the reading of the will. Eleanor requested it. You will come, won't you? The phone slides a few centimeters down on the grease of my sweaty cheek. My mother waits. Joan? Yes, Mom. I'll be there. Okay, talk with you on Thursday. Her lilting voice fades out as I drop the phone on the bed. My mother had called to share news that my Aunt Eleanor was dead. A stroke. A neighbor heard alarmed yowls coming from Eleanor's Tiburon home and forced his way in through a window to find my aunt lying on the floor, surrounded by her menagerie. A dog, a cat, and a sloth crowded around my aunt's face in confusion. 3 days later, after the funeral, the family gathers in Eleanor's home to meet with her estate planner. As the estate planner reads the will, my eyes roam Eleanor's study, washing over her collection of globes, telescopes, and the wall of framed international postcards. And should her life exceed my own, the custody and care of Shirley I will to my niece Joan, along with the sum total of $850,000. Excuse me, I say, snapping forward to face the estate planner. Your Aunt Eleanor has willed you $850,000. I caught that part. The rest of it? Oh, well, your aunt has also willed you care of Shirley, her sloth. Her sloth? Yes, her sloth. Joan, let's just get through the rest of this. My mother's velvety hand pats my knee in what is both comfort and a silencer. The rest of the reading is uneventful. My aunt was a retired biologist and explorer who once counted Mike Fay and Birute Galdikas among her close friends. Her estate is doled out to the various relatives. My mother gets the dog and cat, as well as $750,000 of her own. Following the reading, the estate planner hands me a set of papers, which include instructions on how to care for Shirley. Bundled with these is a short letter from Eleanor. Joan, you need to slow down a little. Shirley is an easy girl, and I trust that you're the best person to look after her. She doesn't care much for Martha and Boris, who, if still living, will be staying with your mother. I hope she'll warm to you. There was additional documentation that stated how, after a period of 3 months, should I be incapable of giving Shirley the affection and attention she needs, to please turn care of her over to my mother. I wander the house on my own, finding Shirley sleeping in a wicker nest atop a large window seat. Shirley's salmon-colored tongue lolls from the side of her mouth, soft whistling noises escaping from her gummy lips. What the hell were you thinking, Eleanor? The following day, I pack up the sum total of Shirley's belongings, crating her in preparation for the trip back to my Bernal Heights home. Upon arrival, Shirley begins a tentative exploration of the property. It takes her at least 15 minutes to make it from my front door to the fenced-in backyard, where she promptly climbs my spindly lemon tree and falls asleep. I take a conference call with 2 of my producers while watching Shirley. After hanging up, I call her name, curious if she will respond. Her spherical obsidian eyes pop open, and she begins a slow descent from the tree, one 2-toed limb after the other. Shirley eventually makes her way to my foot, poking at my shoe with an imploring claw. I pick her up, carrying her inside. We eat dinner next to each other. Shirley, a bowl of liana leaves I bought from a nursery, and myself a microwave bowl of pad thai. My mother calls during dinner to check in on how I'm doing with Shirley. Fine, I think, I say, looking to the side. Shirley remains focused, rooting through her bowl of leaves. Just remember, she can't be outside when it gets cold, so you're going to have to make her a little wilderness play area in your condo. And make sure she's got lots of leaves to eat, or else she may start munching on your houseplants. That night, I placed Shirley's wicker nest on the floor by my bedroom window, per Eleanor's instructions. Lying in bed, I keep sitting up, looking over to the nest to ensure that she hasn't wandered off. In the middle of the night, a soft mewling awakens me. Shirley is sitting on the floor, pawing at the edge of my bed. I pull her up, and she curls into a ball on my stomach, falling asleep in minutes. The next day, Shirley comes with me to Dolores Park. I wrap her against my chest with a scarf. She seems fascinated by the underwire of my bra. As we stroll through the park, an elderly woman stops me. "Oh, that's so precious. He looks just like you." "I'm carrying an animal," I say. The woman's confused face follows me as I walk away. We sit underneath a gnarled tree at the top of the park, not far from the train tracks. I make sure no dogs are nearby before I remove Shirley from the wrap and place her on the tree's branches. She clings to it, frozen for a moment, before making ponderous progress towards some nearby leaves. A grizzled man nearby shouts, "Cold beer, cold water." Shirley eats leaves for about half an hour until a warm breeze picks up. Hanging by her legs, she dangles from the branch, the breeze rustling her fur. Shirley extends both of her arms to the side, looking like a hairy little upside-down version of Christ the Redeemer. A couple of nearby park-goers film her with their phones, and I let the moment play out until I see an approaching English sheepdog. I think Shirley smells the animal before she sees it, wrinkling her nose and climbing back on top of the branch as I move to retrieve her. We walk back towards my car, and she licks my cleavage, making a humming noise. Coming home, we run into my upstairs neighbor, David, who coos over Shirley. "I can't believe how cute she is. Look at those little claws." I treat Shirley to a plump fig along with her leaf dinner. She languidly takes the fig apart with her claws before masticating the smaller pieces with dramatic slowness. I decide not to do any work from home tonight, and instead we watch television together. At some point, I hear David having sex with someone upstairs. I can't tell if the noises are male or female, even after I hear the other person moaning, "Tear it up, baby, it wasn't built right to begin with." Shirley seems unperturbed. I turn up the television volume and stroke her fur for distraction. I wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of Shirley crying, or something. She's sitting upright on the bed next to my stomach, rocking back and forth. A neighbor's dog barks outside, a noise I hear often enough to sleep through. I gather Shirley up, pulling her onto my stomach where she continues to whimper for a minute. A little while passes before she quiets, rolling herself into a Cinnabon shape with one claw over her head. Eventually, I hear the whistling sound that seems to be the sloth equivalent of snoring. I let one hand rest on her fur, gathering little tufts of fuzz between my fingertips. Shirley's fur is soft, but also a bit greasy. She smells like my aunt, or rather, maybe for a long time, my aunt smelled like Shirley. The ceiling fan whirls overhead. A memory of Aunt Eleanor bubbles to the surface. Me, around age 7, visiting her research outpost in Nicaragua. The first night, wild sounds kept seeping in through the cabin walls. My parents were in a neighboring cabin, and I was too scared to venture out, so I went into the next room and woke Aunt Eleanor. She took me to her bed, and we sat there together, listening. Over the swooping whoosh of the fan, Aunt Eleanor was able to identify each cry emanating from the forest. "That screeching is a Joffrey's spider monkey. You know what a monkey is, right, Joan?" "Of course I do, but who's Joffrey?" "Well, when animals are named by people, sometimes the person who named the animal gets to call it after themselves, or someone else they liked. Like having a baby. Stars are like that too. Do you have an animal that's named after you, Auntie?" "Not yet. I think it's kind of silly, honey. I don't need an animal named after me." "Well, why don't you have a baby so you can name her after you instead?" To that, I don't recall her response. I don't think she had one. "Well, if I see a new animal out here in your jungle, I'm naming it after you so you don't have to do it yourself." I remember Aunt Eleanor's laugh as she rocked me back and forth. We spent the rest of the nights together in her bed, Aunt Eleanor fascinating me with her jungle stories. I never again asked her why she had no children. Perhaps I was less interested in questions to which my aunt did not have answers. Shirley rustles about on my stomach, her whistling dying down to a low vibration. I look down at her fuzzy body. She lets loose a light fart and then resettles herself in a new position.